Welcome to tonight's webinar. My name is Noel Smith. I'm a member of the EAC. I'm also a co-founder of Solarize Delco within the community. And tonight we're going to talk about adapting to a warmer world. So it's some personal and community actions that folks can take as we enter a warming world. So the first thing we want to talk about is, what is adaptation and mitigation. The world is warming faster than it ever experienced by civilization, and with it will be changes. The world is an interconnected system where all natural resources will be impacted in some way by a warming world. Climate mitigation is reducing the warming that will occur, thereby reducing the impacts. Climate adaptation is the process of adjusting to the impacts of climate change in order to reduce the risks and maintain or improve the well-being of human societies and our natural ecosystems. This can involve a wide range of strategies, including physical changes to infrastructure, changes in land use or land management practices, and social or economic changes to reduce vulnerabilities and increase resilience. Adaptation measures can be implemented at different scales, from individual households to national or international systems, and can be designed to address a variety of climate impacts, including sea level rise, more frequent and severe extreme weather events, and changes in temperature and precipitation patterns. Climate adaptation is an essential component of the broader effort to address climate change, as even with significant global reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, the impacts of climate change are already occurring, and we will need to adapt. And yeah, the spoiler alert is we really need to mitigate very quickly, as fast as we can, but adapt to the expected impacts. So Delaware County will see a variety of impacts, and we will go through each on the next slide. Listed here are some of the impacts that we will see locally. But again, I'm going to kind of walk through these point by point in the slides. So the first one is the average temperature in our area has already increased, and you may have noticed our lack of winter this past year. I remember as a child, we would be skating on the frozen ponds on the golf course every winter. Well, those ponds no longer have ice formation in the winter anymore. There are many implications to a rapidly warming climate. Our ecosystem has evolved to be a symbiotic relationship between flora and fauna of the world, which is all related to the temperature of each region. When that temperature changes rapidly, insects migrate much faster than native plants can, and the results can be devastating. The pine bark beetle is one example of this. It's moving northward and destroying pine trees in the northeast. Ticks are also moving farther north, and the moose of Maine have no natural defenses, and they're being killed by the ticks. So these are just some examples of what the impacts are. Also, where we grow food is changing faster than we can adjust our systems. By mid-century, we will be experiencing many more days over 90 degrees. This has many implications to human health and the quality of life. It is known that crime rates increase when temperatures are hot. Additionally, heat stress increases Additionally, as heat stress increases, the quality of air decreases, causing more hospital visits and negative health impacts, lowering the quality of life in the area. Warmer air can also hold much more moisture, and that means our rainstorms will increase in intensity, causing more floods and damage. We had a rainstorm a few years ago that flooded 2 of the 5 water supply stations that service our area. When the engineers built those facilities, they would not have placed them where a rainstorm would flood them, and they relied on historical records to determine this, but those historical records are no longer indicative of the intensity of storms to come, rendering our built environment at risk. So we will have to adapt to the changing environment that we are in. As we noted, climate change is likely to increase the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events, such as heat waves, heavy rainfall, and flooding. These events can have a range of impacts, from property damage to public health risks. You can see on this chart on the right that the frequency has increased mostly in extreme weather and hurricanes. The graphic on the left is the 2021 billion-dollar weather climate disasters. Our area is in a lower risk area than much of the country, but we still have some risk for tropical storms and nor'easters. And of course, impacts to other areas of the country still do impact us in terms of damage to food production, energy production, travel, and general productivity of the economy. These events will cause economic impacts that will go through our economy, causing higher prices. Sea level rise and coastal flooding in Delaware County and the Philadelphia area is situated along the Delaware River and is vulnerable to coastal flooding from rising sea levels. This can lead to the flooding of homes and businesses, damage to critical infrastructure, and increased risk of erosion and storm surges. The Philadelphia Airport and the Navy Yard and all of Southwest Philly will be inundated in the next 50 years. New Jersey Shore will also become non-inhabitable sometime in the next 30 to 70 years. Climate change has significant impacts on public health, including risks to heat-related illnesses, respiratory disease, vector-borne diseases such as Lyme disease and West Nile virus. Heat waves will become longer and more severe, impacting the quality of life and threatening health. Air pollution is also increased due to the heat intensity, and crime rates will naturally rise during heat events. So our economy and culture depend on natural ecosystems for all the services, for the things we eat, the supplies that we build, where we get our water, and more. And these species and ecosystems are experiencing significant and observable impacts from climate change. Local and global extinctions may occur when climate change outpaces the capacity of species to adapt. I mentioned that earlier in the presentation with the pine bark beetles. So climate change is altering the ecosystem productivity, and it's really making the spread of invasive species go much faster than it was. So climate change can have a range of negative impacts that affect a wide range of systems, including the ecosystems, agriculture, industry, infrastructure, and public health. Here are some examples of the negative economic impacts of climate change. So with agricultural productivity, climate change can disrupt agriculture production by affecting the soil moisture, temperature, and precipitation patterns, can lead to crop failures, lower crop yields, and lower quality of crops. Reduced agricultural productivity can lead to higher food prices, which can affect the overall cost of living for many people. Increased frequency and intensity of extreme weather events. Climate change causes these hurricanes and floods and droughts. These events can cause significant damage to infrastructure, to property and crops, again, leading to increased costs for repair and recovery. Climate change can also lead to higher energy costs as demand for heating and cooling increases. This can have a significant impact on households and businesses, leading to higher operating costs and reduced profitability. There's public health impacts. Climate change can lead to increased incidence of heat-related illnesses, respiratory diseases, and vector-borne diseases. And these health impacts can have significant economic costs, including increased healthcare costs, lost productivity, and reduced quality of life. And then there's ecosystem disruption. Climate change causes disruption to ecosystems, affecting biodiversity, leading to loss of habitat and species. And this can have significant economic costs, including reduced tourism in certain areas, reduced ecosystem services such as water filtration and carbon sequestration. In addition to these direct impacts, there's also a wide range of secondary impacts that can affect economic systems. For example, the reduced agricultural productivity mentioned above can lead to food shortages, which can lead to social unrest, political instability, nationalism, and conflict. The increased frequency and intensity of extreme weather events can lead to insurance claims and increased insurance premiums, affecting the overall cost of doing business. And the public health impacts of climate change can lead to increased healthcare costs and reduced workforce productivities. These secondary impacts can create feedback loops and further exacerbate the economic impacts of climate change, making it a rather complex and challenging problem to address. These are just some recent headlines that we saw in the news. Fort Lauderdale had a third of its annual rainfall within 8 hours. They had 24 inches of rain occur in 8 hours, just unprecedented. An aqueduct was lost in Los Angeles, and the Southeast faces severe flooding risk as more tornadoes threaten Mississippi. So again, we saw a lot earlier hurricane or tornado patterns in the recent years, and the shifting of the tornado belt as well. So things are shifting very quickly, but we have the power to make a difference. Almost half of the U.S. emissions are controlled by the things that we do as citizens. We can do things to adapt and prepare for these climate disruptions. And so we're going to go through some of these as well. So there's some personal strategies that you can to do to mitigate and adapt. So some of the strategies I'm going to talk about will do both mitigation, meaning make the problem not as bad, but adaptation, which is learning to live with it. So the less energy you need for your home, the less dependent you will be on fragile energy infrastructure, and more comfortable you will be in an extended outage. Additionally, as energy prices rise, using less energy reduces your personal exposure to these increased costs. If you own a home and have the means and have a sunny roof, then solar PV is a great solution to reduce your overall energy bill. In fact, solar PV is the lowest cost energy and it's fixed for its lifetime, generally 30 years or more. Furthermore, if you have solar, you will want to consider a partial battery backup system. Currently, the federal government will pay 30% or more of your solar and battery setup. Additionally, electrifying as much as you can at your home will allow you to control the costs through solar energy production. At current rates, based on a 30-year useful life of solar panels, you can get your energy costs down to under 10 cents per kilowatt hour in a fixed cost, compared to 16 cents and rising with Pico. And there's some other strategies you can do as well. Planting shade trees will reduce the temperature in, I think I have another slide on this as well, but shade trees in a community will reduce the heat island effect in particularly urban areas. I talked about the others as well. So let's hit on the next slide. Some other adaptation measures: rain gardens and water conservation. Rain gardens are the township sponsors a rain garden program, but these have great impacts by reducing some of the runoff into the downstream rivers and streams that impact our neighbors. It also has a cooling effect as well, and provides some biodiversity environments for certain wildlife. So again, rain gardens are a great adaptation strategy. And house gutters, so make sure you got the right size of your gutters. Your sump systems are backed up and ready to go. Rain barrels reduce runoff as well, and permeable pavement does as well. These are some strategies that you can do to reduce the impacts of a warming world. Some additional ones: electric car, of course, that will reduce your emissions, but it'll also reduce your reliance on fossil fuels and the kind of the disruptions that you're seeing today, but also you'll see in the future in this as well. But really any other way of transport that uses less energy, biking, public transportation, and even walking are strategies to both mitigate and adapt to the warming world. So as food prices rise, you can plan to grow some of your food product at home. Planting shade trees are an effective strategy for the community. We're going to talk about that in another slide as well. So rain gardens we talked about. They provide several benefits for resiliency, including reduced flooding, improved water quality. They filter pollutants and contaminants, increase biodiversity, providing a habitat for plants and animals, mitigates the heat island effect, and enhances community engagements. Overall, rain gardens are an effective and sustainable way to manage storm runoff. Urban forestry provides several benefits for climate resiliency, including carbon sequestration. Trees absorb and store carbon dioxide. Heat island mitigation. Trees provide shade, which can help reduce urban heat islands and those associated health risks. It also intercepts and absorbs rainwater, reduces the amount of runoff and risk to heavy rainfall events, improves biodiversity, improves air quality, and improves the aesthetic value of your property as well. So this is a really important component in our climate resiliency plan in urban areas, and we should be planting trees as we can. So riparian buffers and wetland rehabilitation are both important conservation and restoration strategies for protecting and improving the health of aquatic ecosystems. Some of the benefits of these practices include water quality improvement. They act as natural filters, capturing and filtering pollutants and sediments before they enter the roadways. Again, these also do add biodiversity. They're important habitats for a wide variety of plant and animal species, many of which are dependent on these areas for their survival. And by protecting these and restoring these areas, we can help to maintain and enhance the biodiversity in aquatic ecosystems. These buffers and wetlands can also help absorb and store excess water during floods and heavy rainfall events. You can hear that as a kind of a theme through adaptation tonight, because we will continue to see increased rainfall events. They do also sequester carbon and provide natural recreation areas for the community as well. So these are important tools for restoring our environment. I know Haverford Township is doing quite nice work on some of the wetlands that we have. Some additional community strategies. Infrastructure improvements are a critical strategy for climate resilience. They help communities prepare for and adapt to the impacts of climate change. Some ways that infrastructure improvements can enhance climate resilience include reduce the vulnerability to extreme weather events. Infrastructure improvements can help protect communities from impacts of extreme weather events such as flooding, hurricanes, and wildfires. This can include improving stormwater management systems, reinforcing buildings and infrastructure, and creating emergency response plans. Cooling centers is another strategy that some communities put in place. Again, heat risk is going to be one of the primary risks for our area, and making sure we have places to allow folks to cool off if they don't have it at home. And social support networks is important as well. So knowing your community and who needs help is important. So some ongoing resilience programs that we have. Pico energy audits is always the first thing we recommend to people if they're looking for, like, what can I do now? Get an energy audit. You'll find out where you're wasting energy and how to close the gap and save yourself some money in the process. Check out Solarize Delco. Solarize Delco is neighbors helping neighbors to see if their home is a good fit for a solar installation, and answer all the questions that you have to make you comfortable with moving forward with solar. The Shade Tree Commission, if you want to get shade trees in your community, you can join one of their programs to do that. Have a Rain Garden is a township-led program to plant rain gardens in the community. 100 gardens in 10 years is the goal. Riparian buffer, as I mentioned earlier, some tree planting through the township and volunteers and the Delaware Creek Valley Association are repairing the buffers to the streams. Rain barrel workshops, backyard composting, and we have a number of other workshops that you can attend from the EAC that should be up on our website. And there's some additional resources. We have our climate action website for Haverford Township at haverfordclimateaction.org. The Pennsylvania Climate Action Plan is posted as well. And yeah, there's a couple other resources on here for extreme heat and climate impact assessment from PA Department of Environmental Protection. So in conclusion, yeah, mitigate as fast as you can, because time is not our friend in this battle, and then adapt to the expected impacts. Do the things now, prepare now for the future, so that when the worst impacts occur, that you're prepared.